There are some actors whose talent can't be summed up in genre, role, or even medium. They're versatile, they're slippery, untethered. Oscar Isaac is one of those actors, the kind who walks into a scene and immediately raises its temperature by 5 degrees. Not because he's loud or theatrical, but because every expression feels like it belongs to a different man entirely. He's like a spotlight with a passport, equally at home on Broadway or a green screen, in a biblical epic or a nihilist noir. His characters don't just shift tone, they shift time zones, moral codes, and even biology. Isaac doesn't just deliver performances, he builds them, brick by brick, voice, gaze, gait, and hides the blueprints in plain sight. You never see him work, you only see the result. Nowhere is that more obvious and more frustrating than in Star Wars. When The Force Awakens was released, Isaac's Poe Dameron was introduced with the kind of charm and defiance that felt like Han Solo had been rebooted with a slightly better haircut and a sharper tongue. He had swagger, not just in his piloting, but in his presence. He bounced off Finn like they'd known each other in another life. In that first movie, Isaac made Poe feel essential, a necessary pulse of life amid the saga's heavy myth-making. But what started with so much promise devolved into narrative neglect. By The Last Jedi, Poe had become a hothead without a plan, and in The Rise of Skywalker, he was chasing old flames and filling time between plot points. The trilogy gave him screen time, but not story. Isaac fought to keep him grounded, injecting small moments of sincerity, a glance here, a smirk there, that hinted at a deeper character the script never delivered. His final line isn't a victory cry, it's a shrug. He gave a blockbuster his all, only for the story to forget why he mattered. Now let's move on to Inside Llewyn Davis. This is where Oscar Isaac went from underrated supporting actor to a leading man capable of turning suffering into symphony. He plays Luen as a man always one cigarette away from self-destruction. A folk singer who isn't just broke financially, but emotionally. There's a weariness to his eyes, a heaviness in his silences. He doesn't whine, he exists. The Coen brothers gave him a film where everything is cold and indifferent. The world, the weather, the cat, and Isaac answers with quiet desperation that feels lived in. His singing voice, raw and unpolished, isn't just convincing. It sounds like the last voice left in an empty club at 2 a.m. You believe this man has slept on every couch in Greenwich Village. He isn't likable in the traditional sense, but Isaac never tries to sand down his edges. He plays Luen like a man allergic to hope, and it works. There's a scene on a snowy highway, when he's just watching the world move on without him, that stays with you. It's not dramatic, it's not loud, but Isaac's ability to draw so much pain out of the mundane is the kind of thing most actors spend careers trying to fake. Now jump from broken folk singer to, well, broken tech bro. Ex Machina gave Oscar Isaac a chance to flex a different kind of intensity. He's quieter, smoother, but no less dangerous. As Nathan Bateman, he's a genius recluse with biceps, a beard, and god complex so thick you could trap flies in it. Isaac plays him like a man who enjoys toying with human life the way others enjoy making cocktails. He dances, he gaslights, he dominates every room like he paid for the walls. The brilliance of his performance is how unforced it is. Nathan doesn't have to raise his voice to command the scene. In fact, it's when he's calmest that you start worrying about what he's hiding. His charisma is intoxicating, but Isaac never lets it become safe. You laugh at his jokes, then you feel guilty about it 5 minutes later. By the time the blood hits the floor, you realize he's been puppeteering your emotions just as much as his androids. Isaac plays Nathan like he's daring you to like him. And you do. That's the trap. Then there's A Most Violent Year, which feels like a spiritual cousin to The Godfather, but set in the grimiest parts of 1980s New York. Isaac plays Abel Morales, a man trying to stay clean in a business that eats people like him for breakfast. What's striking is how still he is, because Isaac doesn't overplay the tension. He lets the restraint do the talking. He wears his suits like armor, delivers his lines like ultimatums whispered through clenched teeth. There's a moment where he threatens someone without ever raising his voice, and the fear lands harder than any punch. He doesn't play Abel as naive, but as stubbornly principled, a man who would rather drown standing up than survive on his knees. And you believe him. Every time he stares someone down, you feel like the camera is daring you to blink first. It's a controlled performance, elegant but fierce, and it proves that Isaac doesn't need blood or spectacle to feel dangerous. Just a hallway, a stair, and a sentence he doesn't have to repeat. But if you want spectacle, there's Dune, where Oscar Isaac becomes Duke Leto Atreides, a man trying to lead with dignity in a universe that sees nobility as a weakness, even surrounded by sci-fi bombast. Spice melange, giant worms, prophecy. Isaac grounds the role with warmth and presence. He plays Leto as a leader first, father second, but the love he has for Paul, his son, bleeds through everything. Watch the way he listens. The pauses between lines. Isaac is constantly balancing diplomacy with dread. His performance in that role is filled with restrained sorrow. He knows doom is coming, but he holds the line anyway. That quiet courage, that ability to lead while carrying the weight of inevitability, is what makes the performance resonate. And it works because Isaac doesn't try to upstage the chaos. He simply exists in it, eyes full of unspoken thoughts. Every moment of dialogue with Paul, every side glance at Lady Jessica is loaded with layers. Even though Leto doesn't last long in the film, Isaac leaves such an impact that his absence becomes part of the tension. The movie gets colder after he's gone. In The Bourne Legacy, Isaac doesn't have much screen time, but in just a few short scenes he leaves a mark. Playing Outcome Agent 3, later revealed as Number 3, Isaac builds an entire backstory into his posture alone. He's stoic, calculating, but with the quiet anxiety of a man who knows he's disposable. There's no grand speech, no flash, just an internalized tension that hints at years of psychological manipulation and weaponized obedience. In a program designed to erase identity, Isaac makes his character feel heartbreakingly human. His brief presence becomes a cautionary footnote in a world that treats men like tools, sharpened and shelved. He dies early, but not without imprinting a sense of humanity that many characters with triple the dialogue fail to muster. Now let's talk about my favorite performance of his from Moon Knight, a role that should have been impossible to pull off with any degree of coherence. Multiple personalities, shifting accents, MCU constraints, and yet Isaac treats it like Shakespeare in a straitjacket. He lives within the characters of Mark Spectre and Stephen Grant. His physicality effortlessly changes with each personality. Watch how Mark walks like a trained soldier and Stephen fumbles like a confused museum clerk. His eyes do more switching than the camera. What makes this work is Isaac's refusal to mock the complexity. He plays dissociation not as a gimmick, but as a tragedy. One particular scene where Stephen watches a memory unfold and realizes the depth of Mark's trauma is devastating because Isaac performs both roles. He's reacting to himself and somehow making you cry doing it. And this is basically the entire episode. Even the fight scenes feel personal because the action feels more like identity in conflict rather than studio-mandated violence. And the show's best emotional moments come when the two personas speak to each other. That internal dialogue isn't easy whatsoever. But Isaac finds a way to make every exchange feel like a therapy session teetering on the edge of collapse. His performance isn't just layered. It's stacked, boxed, and bubble-wrapped. In The Card Counter, Isaac plays William Tell, a man who lives life like he's trying to stay out of view even when the camera is right on him. Paul Schrader wrote the role like a spiritual cousin to Taxi Driver, and Isaac delivers with quiet menace. Tell comes across less like someone seeking redemption, just someone trying not to fall apart. His voiceover is ghostly, and when he plays cards, he's less focused on winning than on maintaining some illusion of control. There's a scene where he wraps a motel room in white sheets, creating a sterile bubble around his guilt, and Isaac doesn't say much, but his eyes scream. It's not flashy, it's suffocating. He makes self-loathing feel like a routine. The tension never erupts, and that's the point. Isaac performs like someone who has accepted that his punishment is permanence. He never asks for sympathy. He just shows you what it looks like to live in purgatory. As for Annihilation, Isaac's portrayal of Cain is a performance built entirely on fragmentation. He doesn't play Cain like a man with secrets. He plays him like a man who's already been replaced. When he returns from the Shimmer, he's a ghost, wearing the skin of a husband. In the early scenes, Isaac is distant but polite, vacant but smiling, like he knows the answers and has already forgotten them. When he drinks water in silence, the act becomes existential. Later, in flashbacks, he shows us who Cain was before, a soldier, brave but conflicted, loyal but questioning. Isaac walks both versions with quiet sorrow, similar to how he did with Moon Knight, never confirming which is real. It's a dual role without ever saying it out loud. The horror of annihilation isn't just the monsters or mutations, it's the absence of continuity. Isaac embodies that with chilling effectiveness. He's barely there, but his absence feels like a scream in every frame. It's a performance that haunts because it never tries to explain itself. In Operation Finale, Isaac steps into a real-life role. Peter Malkin, the Mossad agent tasked with capturing Adolf Eichmann. Here, he plays determination as a simmering flame. He doesn't go for big Oscar bait moments. Instead, he lets the humanity seep through in small interactions. There's a moment when he's interrogating Eichmann, and you can see him wrestling with hatred and justice in the same breath. It's not just a battle of ideology, it's personal, and Isaac plays it as such. The tension is in his silences, in how he chooses not to explode. It's a quieter role than others, but no less demanding, because playing restraint well is a skill, and Isaac uses it like a scalpel. And now we come to Spider-Man Across the SpiderVerse, which gave Oscar Isaac something that Into the SpiderVerse only hinted at: space, screen time, dimension in every sense of the word. As Miguel O'Hara, also known as Spider-Man 2099, Isaac doesn't just play a variant of Spider-Man, he plays the weight of the multiverse in a compression suit. Miguel is not charming, he's not quippy, he's not even particularly friendly or looks like he's from your neighborhood. What he is, though, is urgent. And Isaac leans into that with ferocity. His voice doesn't crack jokes, it cracks under pressure. Miguel's entire character arc hinges on a kind of utilitarian grief. He believes in the canon not as a concept, but as a sentence. There's also something uniquely tragic in how Isaac plays Miguel's control issues, not as a power trip, but as a last-ditch defense mechanism. He's the only Spider-Man who doesn't see the job as noble, he sees it as fatal and necessary. When Miles defies him, he responds like someone watching a house catch fire, that he spent his entire life trying to rebuild. Even in animated form, Isaac's performance carries the physicality of a man constantly holding back emotion, violence, and grief. The animators gave Miguel fangs and claws. Isaac gave him restraint. In a film bursting with kinetic energy, he's the anchor dragging you down to reality. His vocal delivery has bite, but never feels cartoonish. Instead, it lands somewhere between a mission briefing and a confession. He doesn't beg for sympathy. He demands compliance. And yet, in the silences between his orders, Isaac lets you feel something breaking. You don't need a backstory spelled out, but they give it to you anyway. His performance is the backstory, and it's the kind of voice work that deepens the entire film's moral question. What are we willing to sacrifice in the name of keeping things how they're supposed to be? Even in Triple Frontier, where the plot could have easily drowned in testosterone and gear, Isaac adds soul. His character, Santiago Garcia, is a man pretending he still has a cause. He rallies his old team like a high school football coach, but with eyes that suggest he's half hoping they'll say no. And when everything inevitably collapses, Isaac doesn't shout or throw things. He just lets the weight press down, and you feel it. It's a film where every decision spirals, and Isaac is the center, the calm, the guilt, the regret. All of this is to say, Oscar Isaac doesn't just have range, he has dimensionality. He doesn't approach characters like costumes to be worn, he unpacks them, lives inside them, makes you feel like you've met someone real. What separates him from the rest is how little he seems interested in repeating himself. He'll go from art house to blockbuster, folk singer to assassin, and somehow never carry baggage between them. Each character has a unique rhythm, a different center of gravity. Directors talk about how easy it is to collaborate with him, how he finds the moment without hijacking it. His co-stars often say he gives space, listens fully, and never breaks concentration. And that's rare. Some actors can disappear into a role. Oscar Isaac can disappear into like 30 in one career and still leave enough behind that each one feels permanent. He's not chasing prestige, he's building legacies. Quiet, gripping, unforgettable legacies.